cheekbone along the stock of the weapon, looking over the rear ram, finding the front bead. Put the front bead on the target that you intend to engage and squeeze the trigger. If you're using 00 rounds, that target, that round is effective within 35 to 45 yards. 35 to 45 yards, that's some 90 to 120, 135 feet. Okay, so we want to be conscious of that at all times. If we're using slugs, we know that our slug is good for 100 yards or 300 feet. Okay, so that's the kill range of these projectiles. That slug will travel well outside of 300, 400 yards. Okay, it won't stop until it hits something that has a greater force or velocity than itself, like a tree or a rock or something of that sort. Same thing with the 00 buckshot, the number 4s. 35 to 45 yards, and they'll travel outside of 200 feet until again they hit something solid. Okay, so we've discussed our general safety rules, we've discussed the parts of the weapon. Let's talk about the loading of the gun. How should we go about loading and unloading our weapon? So let's say if we get 4 to 5 rounds of ammunition and we want to load the weapon, first step is you want to hold the weapon in the position where it's safe because other persons might be around you, especially if you're a hunter. So I always tell people you can hold the weapon at the high port, which is above the tallest man's head, or you can hold the weapon in a low port area, muzzle down, but not facing anybody. So you can almost taxi right around and you won't be offending anybody with the weapon. So let's look at the high port first. So I put the weapon into the area of the waist and I'm about to load my weapon. So my action is closed, my weapon is on safe. 1 round into the chamber and push up. 2, 3. Now remember, this is just one way of loading the weapon. This is not the way to load a weapon. Okay, so let's look at another way that we can safely load this weapon around persons. So let's say if we have the weapon at the low port, the weapon is here. So we would have safely loaded our weapon. Once we would have safely loaded our weapon, the weapon is not ready to fire just yet. We need to now chamber around in order to fire this weapon. We have just loaded the magazines. So what we do is we hold the action release lever, the little lever at the rear left of the trigger guard, holding the action release lever down, pull the action to the rear. 1 round comes out of the magazine into this port here, and we take the action forward. It will feed the round into the chamber. Right there. The weapon is now in a position that it can fire. Once we take the weapon off of safe, this weapon will discharge. So we're going to step up towards a target, and we're going to see if all of the steps that we would have gone through were the proper steps. So we step out, get into our stance. Strong foot is always at the rear. Your strong foot is always at the rear. Your support foot at the front. So if I'm a left-hander, that means your left foot is at the rear. If you're a right-hander, that means your right foot is at the rear. So weapon into my left shoulder because I'm a lefty. Once I'm ready, I take the safety off. Look over my rear ram, pick up the front bead. We're using bird loads for safety purposes. And we discharge the weapon. Once you fire, squeeze the trigger, the action of pulling the action to the rear expels the round, pulling the action forward, reload. Expel, reload. Expel, reload. Once you would have completed that, put your weapon on safe immediately afterwards. Ejection port is open. Weapon is on safe. Now we can turn around and face other persons or handle our weapon. So that is the safe way to load a weapon, to handle and operate a weapon. Remember, at all times, folks, you never want to point your weapon at anything you're not willing to destroy. So there's no such thing as I was only joking or this is my boy, so I point him, I want to show him the front of my gun. There's no such thing. Okay, at all times, we want to be safe, we want to be professional, and we want to keep our weapon pointed in the safe direction. So for the purpose of this exercise, I can walk amongst all these persons here. My muzzle is pointing at the ground. My trigger finger is right here on the frame of the weapon. My ejection port is open, so there's no way for this weapon to discharge, and all of the rounds are already expelled out of the magazine. I can now put this weapon down safely, and that is how we go about engaging targets. That's it. Any questions?